Say the Quats, I'll call our Ramsey County Commission meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you everybody for coming this morning. First thing off is approval of previous meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of bills.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the bills as submitted.
If you'll see that we made the last payment for the search and rescue.
I was gonna ask, that's the last one?
Yep.
Alright.
Oh, that's all on the sheriff.
Yep.
We need to hear.
And last one,
Last one.
at work, but
Nice.
we're appreciative of it, I don't know.
Anything else you'd like to point out or any other questions on the bills for that month? If not, we'll do roll call.
Volk,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Bills are paid. Financial report. Any questions on the financials as submitted?
Oh, everything looks good. Great.
Yes.
At least on my look, it looked good, so I'll make the motion to accept the financials.
We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and a second to approve the financials as submitted. Roll call, please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightfon. Brown,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Financial reports have been approved. Treasurer's checks.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the treasurer's checks. Roll call, please.
Brown,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye. Treasurer checks have been approved. Approval of agenda. Any additions or corrections to the agenda as printed?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to add a quick discussion about the burn ban. I've gotten a lot of calls on it, and I just told the people that I talked to that I'd bring it up and add it under new business,
Either that or
unfinished business, either way.
with Chris. Well, we have Chris in the room, our emergency manager. Yeah, that'd be great. Any other additions to the agenda?
Oh, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
The motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. First up, we have the NDSU extension. Sarah White. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us.
Yes, so, just a little update on what we've been up to. We held our 4-H, we have a lot of 4-H events coming up, and we just had one on Sunday. We had our communication arts held at the Peterson Arena, and we had, for communication arts, we have 18 participants and 17 presentations, so that is a huge amount for a county like ours. So we are just so glad that we had so many presentations, and anything from clover buds, which are the young, the 5-year-olds to 8-year-olds. We had illustrated talks, speeches, electronic presentations. So it turns out all of the presentations are eligible to go to the district communication arts, which is June 3rd in Candu, and then any of those winners will be able to go present at the state fair, which is still being held. We did have a clothing review on Sunday as well, and we had 20 participants participate in that, anywhere from the clover buds to up in the teen category, so that was really great as well. Our shooting sports archery instruction has ended. That ended last week. The state archery competition is going to be in Washburn, May 15th, and we do have 12 Ramsey County participants so far signed up to do that. And our registration for shotgun instruction has begun, and that will start this summer on June 7th, and that's open to all youth. They don't have to be in 4-H, ages 11 to 18, and you must have hunter safety certification to participate in our shotgun. And we are preparing for 10 different mini camps throughout the summer, anything from drawing and painting to outdoor skills to learning how to stay home alone this summer. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up. And we're really excited to be having a barbecue boot camp for our older kids. We're bringing in some Darren Wilcox. He's done a lot of competitions, so he'll be able to teach the kids a lot. And we'd like to thank like Chevy and Heartland Chevy, because they provided us with a grant so that we could offer these mini camps at a very reduced rate to all of our kids. Just an FYI, our Achievement Days is coming up starting on June 23rd with the horse show, June 25th, small animals, June 26th, large animals, and then July 16th and 17th will be our static exhibits, which is the more projects that the kids have been doing throughout the year. And then one last thing, Bill's retirement party, very important piece of information, June 26th. We are going to celebrate Bill at our large animal expo over the lunch hour. Our fair board wanted to do something for him. And then we're going to do something for him here as well on July 1st at the Ramsey County Armory. And that'll be in the afternoon. But we'll advertise for those as well. We'd like to just celebrate all the years that Bill has put in for Ramsey County and do that for him. So.
Sarah Wilcox was gonna cook for that, wasn't he? For a whole Sioux.
I think he's gonna do something too. Yeah, exactly. So that's exciting.
The fair's gonna be out at the barn then, or around?
We will have, yes, we are actually doing some farm visits this year too. It turns out that last year when they did that, it was just such a good thing. The kids were able to show off their animals, show off their farm, what they did right on scene. That's going to be kind of in place of their record books.
Oh, really?
Yes, that is what our livestock committee decided. But if it doesn't work out for some families, they can still do a record book. But then they are going to actually show their animals in person this year, out at the fairgrounds. So that's exciting.
So if they come to the farm, they don't come to the fair then?
No. Just because we liked it, so we liked going out to the farm so much, we're gonna keep that. But the kids are still gonna come out and show their animals in person at the fairgrounds.
Great combination.
Yeah,
Yeah, it works good.
yeah, we're excited. I mean, some good things did come out of the pandemic.
I think
So,
the kids were really proud to be able to show off their home place and their animals there, and then it's always great to get them at the arena as well.
yep, absolutely. So, any other questions or comments for us?
Got a busy summer.
We do, yes, it is. It's looking very busy, but we're excited.
Anything else, Sarah? Any other questions for Sarah? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Jager, emergency management evacuation plan.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Just want to discuss, or just bring up, this is the updated version of the evacuation of the courthouse and situations therein. Basically, I just want to see if it was if we could adopt just the updated version of it. I do see I have a revision I have to make. I have to remove the telephone calling warning tree just in the index on page 2, because that doesn't exist any longer.
additional changes that were made to it that is pretty much the same, we're just re-adopting it?
Just updating like the ways to call 911, just instead of dialing 911, we have to dial 911. Just little revisions, but other than that, no major changes.
Okay.
Take a motion to approve that evacuation plan as, okay. We have a motion to approve the evacuation plan for the courthouse. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the updated evacuation plan for the Ramsey County Courthouse. Any further discussion? Anything else you'd like to add, Chris? No? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for that. And while we have Chris here, we would like to discuss the burn ban.
Certainly. So I'm sure several of us got calls about the burn ban and farmers' thoughts on how it's affecting them. And obviously none of them are happy, but I don't think any of us had that expectation. But the one thing that all of them did say to me when they called was that this burn ban is causing them to leave their fires unattended. You know, so that they can't, or at least in their mind, they won't get caught and penalized. And I think that that's an issue if we're sort of causing that to happen, because the whole point was to not allow a fire to go uncontrolled. So I told them that I would bring up a discussion on the burn ban before the county commission, and you know, sort of see if everybody feels that it's still working as we originally intended.
I guess the calls I've gotten, they're not against the burn ban, they just wish they had more time to burn, like if they could go into the orange instead of the green.
And that's
That's what I've been hearing as well. People just want to have a little more latitude to be able to go into that strong category, which I don't know, I think it's reasonable, because part of my concern with it when we went, not concern, but this is the first time we've done this as well. We've never done this moving scale type of setup before, and watching the rangeland forecast every day and seeing, you know, what days are strong and what days are moderate, or high, I should say, not strong, more moderate, has been kind of interesting. And I think there's been a lot of high days that were probably fairly reasonable to burn on, with some common sense as always. But we're not going to stop everything. Heck, there was a red flag warning the other day, and heck, there was smoke all around.
We've got to loosen this up somehow.
The orange days would be alright to me as long as we're not at 50-mile-an-hour winds.
Well, the minute they get over that wind standpoint, then it goes to red flag warning at that point anyway. I mean, I don't know exactly what the criteria are, but basically the red flag is when it's going to be strong or extreme, and then there's wind.
So you would want to be able to permit burning into the extreme category. The orange is the extreme. Yellow's high.
Was yellow high?
Yellow, but then it'd be yellow.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. And looking back at it, Chris has been keeping track of the days and what the levels have been, and I think since we put that ban in place, about 50% of the days have been okay to burn. That's been in the blue category.
But you can't get fire started.
Yeah, there would be yellow.
Sunday I got a phone high.
Not the
And
the high.
I was on the phone, I don't know, it must have been last Sunday, Sunday before, maybe, or Sunday ago. And I was on the phone with him, and he said, well, we can burn today. I said, and you can't get one started, he told me. I said, I agree with you. And by the time we were done talking, it was missing on the window. And that was the only day you could burn that week. So we need to loosen it up to the next well, which is red, is that correct?
Yellow.
Yellow's the extreme,
So yellow
High.
is high, so
Yellow's
we
high.
don't allow them during yellow days right now, but I think that would be good.
We're only allowing moderate and low right now, correct?
So
right?
basically the green, blue and yellow would allow it if we would, but,
But today, what are we in today?
Today we're in yellow.
Today we're in yellow.
And I've been pulling this up every day,
Yeah, and I was
just look at it, and yeah, most of the time it's yellow, blue. We haven't had a lot, correct me if I'm wrong, in the orange or red. So like, when I was talking to some of the farmers that are calling me, the yellow would give a lot more days to
Absolutely,
burn.
I agree with you. But that's the next stage up above these two we're allowing.
And there were a couple of times that I took phone calls where they said, why can't I burn today? You know, it's like, there's no wind, it wasn't overly dry in the air, it's just, and I said, I don't know because I didn't determine to put it on today, right? It's-
Right. We're getting some greenness now, so.
Yeah, that's gonna help. Stuff's starting to green up a little bit.
These cattails are just like paper. I mean, there's hardly anything left to them anymore. I mean, it's just,
That's what we kinda talked
We
about
need
before,
more.
we were gonna relook at this as soon as stuff started greening
Right.
up. Correct, you know,
I agree with you.
now that some of the stuff is greening up, I feel that we could go to the yellow, but the rest of it would be all
The calls I've gotten, I think if we went into the yellow, there'd be a lot of people who get their jobs out, get their burning done.
I agree. The same calls that I've gotten, if they could have did the yellow, they would have. And like the guys that I did talk to, they're not against the burn ban, they just wanna move it larger.
Like that Sunday phone call was, you couldn't get one started that day, and that was the only day we could burn that week. And then, so we got away with this stuff.
Well, it comes down, I guess, in my mind, to the question of a law or a policy standard comes down to, are we accomplishing the goal by putting the policy in place? Are people not burning because the burn ban's in place? And some people, I'm sure, yes, we're accomplishing the goal, but there's still, like I said, there's been many days where it's been under the burn ban now, or we're high and above, where I've seen plenty of fires burning around me. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I would say on certain times, it's a bad thing. But there's been certain days when we were in the high where I thought, okay, it's not unreasonable that you're necessarily burning today, as long as you're doing it correctly and you're doing it in a smart manner and you're watching your fire. But, it's a fine line between attempting to set a policy to make sure things don't happen and and then having somebody with, criminal liability at that point. So, I struggle with it, but at the same point, I wanna be able to allow people to, get their work done that they have to get done. Again, we're in that window now where we got a plan. If there's dollars involved, they're gonna go up for a match, we all know that. So, at the same time, we don't wanna make it criminal if it's something that's still reasonable and doesn't cause life, property, things like that to be in danger, basically.
Conditions have changed with the greenness.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it too.
I'd make a motion that we amend the burn ban standard to allow for burning on yellow days or high days. And that it remain in place for extreme days or red flag days.
Second.
Moved in, seconded that we change the burn ban threshold to allow burning during the high categories as well as the low and moderate. And just put the ban in place during the extreme and red flag days. Chris, thoughts?
You mean very high and extreme and red flags?
Very
Yes.
high, extreme, and red flag, yeah, there's two above that, isn't there?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's two above, yep.
I know our resources are very taxed,
Yep.
and when we have the burn ban in place, they have to be reported, they have to be extinguished, and so when a deputy does see a fire during the burn ban, they're indicated to call out rural fire. Rural fire is required to respond and take it from there, I guess. So it has been very taxing on our volunteer departments out there.
Well, and that's the question of the happy medium, because, I mean, the burn ban's in place to try to protect property and protect everything around it and people, but at the same time, to try to protect our fire departments and our volunteers. So are we actually causing a problem by not allowing burning in like the high category where they have to go out on a call every time when maybe it's a reasonable time to be burning? I mean, so it's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other type of situation.
I think all the calls I got were from people that are on the fire.
Yeah, I got a few from rural fire department guys too, saying that these are days that are probably reasonable to burn and we're being
This is the
called out.
days we should be burning.
Yeah.
Get this over with.
I know last Tuesday afternoon going home, it was a moderate day and there was smoke plumes everywhere. People were taking advantage of the day that they could burn. But I also see them on the high, extreme, and red flag days too. So I don't think it's deterred anybody at all, unfortunately.
Well, and if you leave these,
I wouldn't say at all, but.
if you leave these standard, like if we leave this standard in place for long enough, people will just get used to dealing with it.
Oh,
I mean, part of the problem is we put this standard in and some of these old farmers probably don't even know how to look it up.
Yeah.
Right, and so therefore, without giving them time to figure that out, they gotta burn, they're just gonna burn. And if that day is the day that's easiest for them to do it, that's the day they're gonna do it.
I actually had a call on that, and they said, how do I look it up, so that I don't get into it?
Yeah, that's good.
Through, you know, they're like, I'm not tracking, and once I showed them, they're like, well, that's 2 weeks. You know, but you don't always get those good calls either. So,
Chris, question. Yep. How is a red flag day determined?
Wind, right?
It's mainly wind, once the wind hits, I don't know that their actual threshold number, but when it's really windy, that's considered a red flag day.
Okay, so this is a question for the commission policy for my office then. If a day is deemed high in the morning at 5 a.m. and the wind picks up throughout the day and it becomes a red flag day, do I prosecute? Do I not prosecute?
No, that actually is one of the problems that when I was talking to these people, I was saying is it's really hard because you could call me and I won't know when you call whether or not we have a burn ban, right? You know, unless I was literally looking at it the minute before. I guess in my view, and this would be impossible to prove, but at least from a policy standpoint, we delineate it. If the fire was started when they were allowed to be burning, I don't think that they should be penalized. The fire might need to be put out, but I don't think they should be penalized if it became a red flag day.
Let's try to use some common sense.
Well, I don't think they, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could very easily be wrong on this, but every time there's been a red flag warning, that's called in the morning too, correct?
Well, essentially, it kind of is, they predict a red flag.
They predict a red flag day. I mean, they don't just go all of a sudden, the wind came up at 2 o'clock, it's a red flag warning now, generally speaking, because I don't recall that happening at this point.
I know what I've been watching, like on the map, it's been pretty close, if it's gonna be windy, it's pretty much.
Yeah,
called
they
at
call
that
it.
time.
And in a perfect world, they would change throughout the day, because no kidding, do I believe that it's high all day long? I don't know, you know, because they put it off at 6
Let's
in the
use some
morning.
common sense.
Yeah.
It varies, I mean, let's just put trust in our people that we have in our county that live here and farm and try to make a living. Let's trust that they do the right thing. So, I mean, we need to, that's all we haven't. Let's use some common sense.
Can we include in there, for them to call the LEC and let them know? So, because people will drive by, they'll see smoke, they'll call it in, and if the LEC hasn't been notified that there's somebody out there, we're gonna be burning this flue, we're gonna be burning that, and they don't know about it, they're obviously gonna call responders to that.
The comments I had from the people that are rural fire department boys, they said, call us, or, you know, call John.
Yeah.
Or, you know, call them also, so they know.
Well,
Who the hell is burning out
maybe
there?
we could have somebody at the
Oh.
LAC do that, so you still have one you know, sort of one place that all the farmers can call, but then the LAC could quickly notify different fire departments. But I agree, I mean, if, I don't know exactly what parameters will cause this scale to change, but I don't wanna penalize farmers who tried to do the right thing and had the weather turn against them.
And I think
Things have greened up, like I said earlier, things have greened up.
by going into the yellow, though, it's gonna be a lot better.
Hell, of a lot.
Yep.
I think you're gonna see that on your end. A lot of prosecution, if we go to the yellow, you're not gonna see, you're gonna see that.
And that's actually how they do the, back to the calling in, when so-and-so calls in to the LAC and says, I'm gonna do a control burn, we actually get notified via text. It says, hey, they're having a controlled burn at this location, so that's nice. So they
Absolutely, yeah.
are informed.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Let's use some common sense.
And that's
Let's put this in the people's hands.
That's the best way to handle it, because if you've got a record that somebody called in a controlled burn, and then it goes to it goes to very high or extreme or red flag, you've got a record that, hey, I started this before it was there. Right, and then at least you don't have to penalize them, even if you might have to go out and put the fire out.
Correct.
So,
Wake now.
What's going on? I'm trying to see what criteria, I'm trying to
Yeah,
think
it's
what red
tough.
flag warning criteria is here on because the weather services who calls it basically.
I think it's, high winds, low humidity.
Yeah, I believe so too, but I'm just looking to see if there's any specific criteria that they
Specific
call it on,
criteria?
yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah, it says after drought conditions when humidity is very low and especially when there are high or erratic winds, red flag warning becomes a critical statement for weather agencies from the NWS.
I think just, like Ed said, be using common sense and trusting people.
Just put it into people's hands and, you know, let's not create a disaster. Let's use your head, you know. Get a fire break, you know, have this there, have implements there to get after if you need to, I'm sure most of them do. But like, the situation we have right now, like Lucas said, people are driving by, starting, taking off, them out of the way.
that was right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know who started that fire.
No, I don't think that, you know, figure out,
Yeah, and that's not what we're trying to accomplish.
you know, we don't wanna do that, not at all.
Okay, any further discussion?
And everybody, just one other thing, everybody usually brings machinery to the fire. They have their machinery there, their discs, or whatever, you know, they have the fire break, and most of the time they'll even sit there till it's fire controlled or not, you know.
Especially,
So we need to do this, I mean, there is numerous places out there that need to be burned, the
especially,
ground's dry.
my thing, especially if a patrol or the officer shows up and someone's actually sitting in a piece of equipment or they're there controlling it, that's where we gotta use common sense.
I don't have any livestock, I'll bring this up, not really in the county, but these damn cattails is where the coyotes hang out. They're in there hunting for mice or whatever. I lost a calf right off the bat. They sucked that calf dry like somebody cleaned it with a knife. Left the back and the eye. Overnight. I got a hold of a local hunter with his scope and his well at night, you know, and
Oh, yeah, we did.
you got 5 in 2 nights. And I had no trouble since.
Tell the next one's
Words out around.
I sent him some hamburger home. He got out all right, so.
Said the next ones are gonna
Couple
move
guys
up
from
and
up
call
north
back.
there, I haven't seen him, but thank him personally, because I know. So, but he said I've seen a lot more,
I believe it.
so we gotta get these cattails out of the way.
All right, any further discussion? If not, we'll make the adjustment on the burn ban. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Anything else for Chris? Mr. Jager, thank you.
Thank you guys.
We're right on time, so is that
Yeah. We have 8:30 Pops Package Store LLC, beer liquor license and special permit, for the June 11th, 12th rodeo at Pops or Peterson Arena.
Everything in place, Ken? Everything fine?
Did you bring the special permit? We've been doing everything by, no, okay.
So this is essentially what we've done before with other businesses that wanted to do something out of Peterson Arena, where we're requiring them to buy a beer and liquor license that's county approved, even though they're inside city limits, and then we have to approve the special permit, correct?
And I worked with the township to.
Yeah, and I saw the township was there, but do we have a special permit portion too, correct?
Yeah, he just,
Okay, and that's what we
Yeah.
have, so everything's in
Yeah.
order then?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make the motion to approve it then if all the paperwork's in order.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the beer liquor license special permit for Pops Package Store. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you very much.
Motion carries. Thank you.
I'll just leave it here. Okay.
Roger. Mr. Anderson.
Regarding window, I'll use blinds for lack of a better term. I got a couple samples, hopefully you guys got a chance to look at them. I don't know how many of you did. No, Adam has not, I see a,
I'm confused, I haven't seen any samples.
yeah. On third floor, a couple of years ago, they put the film over the windows to try to keep the heat out. And they said that yes, it does work fairly well, but they put that film directly on the window, and apparently that's not the thing to do because the window gets really hot and the window cracks, which has happened to 2 of them. So talked to 2 other companies here in town, and they recommend more of a shade, or I guess shade would be the correct term to use. The same material roughly, but that way, when it's not pressed against the window, you get a little airflow in there and that keeps it from heating up the window so much. So we had some extra money from the generator that we had set aside for this year, and then found out the generator was going to be way more than that. So we just, this is one of the things that might benefit us, and we would have money in the budget already to do it. I haven't gotten any pricing yet, but I just thought I'd kind of run it by you and see what your thoughts are.
Well, it sounds like something that's gonna save us money pretty quick.
In the long run, probably, yes. But talking to the clerk of court there on the west side up on third floor, and they said, yeah, you know, they sit right next to the windows, and they said they've sure noticed the difference.
Which one are they using, Roger?
I think it's the third one, kind of a bluish one, what's up there now. Maybe it's the second, I can't tell from here. And the color wouldn't really make any difference, it would just, you know, we would just probably try and match the one color that's up there now. And there was one on that sheet that was fairly close.
Didn't we, when you talked to me, did you have a ballpark figure on?
No, I have no money amounts yet.
But you
Oh,
knew
from up on third floor?
what it
It
cost
was
up
right
there
around 10,000 for the third floor, yes.
Really, that's, the whole third floor, that's not even that bad in the grand scheme of things for
So,
on the whole floor. It's not
you
bad.
know,
Yeah.
just taking a guess, 25, you know, first and second.
And there's local companies that can do this.
Yeah.
think it's reasonable to look into it, see what kind of prices there are.
We talked about the generator, you wanna go on to that, you know?
Yeah,
We got
you
your
know,
engineer.
until we find out if you guys can spend the money from whatever, COVID money you've gotten, and if we can spend the money on a generator, I really don't see any point in going forward with that until, because we don't have money in the budget for that, the generator, not this year. So talk was we were possibly gonna try and use some COVID money for the generator, but we don't know if we can do that yet. So I guess my point is why even bother finding engineers or anything until we know whether or not we can actually go forward with putting in a generator this year.
Well, what's our ballpark figure on what we figured it was gonna cost again?
The generator?
Yeah, like 100,000, something like that.
Oh, by the time we get all said and done, we're probably looking at 275. Yeah. The generator that they had given us last year was 210. And by the time we add an engineer, you know, I'm guessing they're probably gonna be 10%.
I got one of those craftsman ones I can bring in, we can pull the cord up.
My Honda's
I think
been,
it costs about $50.
Hey, I've got a Delco or something at home myself, but,
I think you should put it in your budget next year like we talked.
well, unless
We'll look at it then, I think.
find out
I mean,
that money can be spent, you know.
well, we have hypothetically 2 pots of COVID money. The pot we already received through the state, which we have, probably $500,000 sitting there still, something like that. I can't remember what the last number was. And then the new pot of money that we don't know how could be spent yet. We still don't have really any guidance. So I mean, there is some money there if it's something we wanted to move forward with, but.
Like I talked to Roger, Adam, we need to use that engineer.
Yeah.
Just because of the large.
Yeah, we have to, because the amount of money
I'm not
involved.
saying we can't put a generator in.
No, but I think it's reasonable, to make sure that you have somebody that's got some expertise in it anyway, just to make sure that we're getting our money's worth, basically.
They're not too
We're
big,
talking that kind of money, you know,
they're not too big and they're not too small.
Yeah.
You know.
because otherwise, you know, they could say and I'm not saying that Roger can't make a decision, but
No.
sizing and everything
No.
like that, to make sure we buy the right thing.
But because of the money amount, we have to have.
Yeah.
For the century. Yeah.
I think it's just a smart idea,
I think we should build it as an extra budget.
something we could do. I mean, how old is the generator again?
It was put in 83.
It's as old as me then.
Into the budget.
I'm doing okay still.
Well, it was only 100 kW, and it was only designed for the bottom floor, the emergency fallout shelter, where our emergency operations center was, and so it's only designed for that floor. We've since added in part of second floor with the health department requiring some, making sure that their vaccinations take hold, that there's a generator for that. And this one would take on all 4 floors of the building. So it'd go from 100 to 300 kW, and it would be not 40 years old.
And also the third floor, the mainframe computer is added into this too. But yeah, like Jeff said, that generator was intended just for the basement. That's what it was installed for.
Let's just put it in next year's budget and look for an engineer and, we have to advertise for an engineer, which I suppose we have to.
Yeah, we will.
Right?
Well, yeah, in the meantime, I think if we have some engineering costs, I think it'd be reasonable to get the ball rolling so that we could get not necessarily today, but so if we put it in next year's budget, we could get the engineering done this year, pay it out of the COVID money, and then on January 1, we could go ahead with the project then, so we don't have to wait, because then we can stick it in the budget in July, it'll be there January 1, and then we can pay for it and get it going then.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Otherwise, we're gonna be waiting.
Oh, yeah, because I don't wanna, because if we wait until January 1, then it'll be, granted, it depends on when they can put it in and weather conditions and stuff like that too.
Do we need a motion for that? Andy, or-
Yes.
Okay.
Putting the deal in the paper, and that way we're actually gonna go through with it, and not just go through the.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
second.
It was Adam's idea, I was waiting for him. That's all right,
Group thing.
We have a motion and second to go ahead and advertise for an electrical engineer for the emergency power generator for the building. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Am I?
Mike,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, so Roger will work with us and we'll get a ad put in, see if we can't get an engineer to come give us an idea of,
Okay.
they'll be willing to bid on this.
Now, what about the window blinds?
Window blinds, I think we should ask for bids on those as well.
I just got a silly question, I suppose. The people that are working in the building, they'd rather have the window blinds than the heat?
Well, you'd still be able to see out.
Yeah, but yeah, okay. You think it's, I've been up there maybe once and,
Okay. You can see out quite well.
This is.
And their blinds, you can raise and lower them if you want, like a shade.
yeah, it's gonna be like a pole.
Well, we're gonna go with the chain type, but yes.
Yeah, so in the winter time, if they want the heat, they could open it up and something.
Yeah, they can open it, they'll be able to raise them and lower them as they choose.
okay, no, I get that.
I think it's reasonable to put together some type of a bid spec, because we're gonna get up into that price range and we're gonna have to bid it, so.
See where we're at, maybe.
Yeah, put it out and see what companies can put something together, hopefully a couple of locals will bid on it.
Well, that small amount, I'll just ask the two that
Yeah.
have,
That in town here, that have the capabilities and see what they can come up with and see if we're in the ballpark where we're thinking.
yeah.
Okay, we wanna put that in the form of a motion to go ahead and give the, okay to put a bid out for blinds.
I'll make a motion to have Roger put a bid out for blinds.
Okay,
Second.
moved and seconded that we put out a bid for blinds for the building. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Wanna come back next meeting, Roger, with a bid or?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anything else for, Roger, you have anything else?
Oh,
Okay. Thank you very much.
thanks.
Mr. Momo, Steve,
Yes,
the estuary contract.
yes, I'm just looking for approval to pay that annual contract.
So moved. And moved and seconded that we go ahead with the estuary contract for the GIS software. Any further discussion? Want to include the amount on that? What is the amount on that, Steve? Is it 5,000?
3,000 is our part.
Yeah, the city covers the other two, correct?
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Kevin, wanna jump right in?
Alright. Couple of invoices, North Dakota Telephone Company did get us the bill for the surveillance system, and that total was $7,245.70.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second to pay the bill for the North Dakota Telephone Company. Roll call, please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Volk,
Aye.
Lightcon.
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Brett.
Aye.
Then we also got our bill for the summer cutting edges that we got from Butler, and that total was $9,338.
Move to approve.
I think you got it. It's just about that much easier.
I'll say.
Nice.
Kevin, was that already paid for in our general bills?
It was listed there, so
Okay.
it's, I mean, probably won't look at it.
Did we wanna
That's what it is.
Both of them
pay
are
it
listed.
twice?
Have to go.
Okay. I noticed there was a different amount in that.
Oh, we had some other
Some other
filters,
equipment.
yeah,
Been moved and seconded that we go ahead and approve the amount for the cutting blades to Butler. Roll call, please.
Lightfon.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Wakefield.
Aye.
Volk.
Aye.
Aye.
And then we're getting ready to fix our soft spots, so we need to have a second skid steer. And I talked to Ironhide, they usually give us a really good deal. $1,300 a week for a second skid steer, and we need to rent for 3 weeks, so it's gonna be about $3,900 to rent that. That's one thing we should maybe look at getting a second one, but we'll have to budget for it and budget for it this year, but they're about 40 grand roughly. But it's something skid steers are something we use every day, just, like 5-10 minutes here and there. We've got one with wheels, and now we'll rent one with tracks, just to get around a little better than soft spots.
You want a motion on that?
Yeah, motion to
Move to approve.
Moved and approved that we rent a skid steer, help out with the soft spot repairs. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And I did meet with Jim Styron and the railroad companies about the 3 sites that we put in for. And now the next step is they'll be assessed with all the other applicants and throughout the state. They did comment that the one in Southam, on our asphalt road there in Southam, is a likely candidate for getting approved this year. But we're competing for approval, so. And all 3 of those, there was one by Bartlett there on the Nelson Ramsey line, and one north of the rest area.
I want it south and all.
Yeah,
There should be one train a week.
3, I think
Yeah.
the railroad guy said 3 a day. No, he said 3 a day.
There's 3 a day that go out there?
That's what the railroad guy said.
Wow. I'm gonna be a stretch.
I think I hear them more than I see them. Because if the wind's out of the south, I can hear them running.
The other 2 are the high-speed, transportation.
Since it's on pavement, on a federal route, does that increase the odds then?
The site distance has a lot to do with that one too, but it does, but since it's a paved road, that's another big factor.
Yeah.
Bus route is a big factor. Of course, traffic count.
Yeah.
And there's one more, accident counts.
No, so the previous accident
Yeah.
counts if it's bad.
Bus route.
Bus
All 3 must be on the bus route, all.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a good idea to put one
Well,
that's out, I mean, I think all 3 of them are reasonable places to put crossing guards. Because they're not great locations to be able to see, especially that southern one coming out of the north is tough.
Oh, yeah.
But that one out north of the rest area is tough too, because I mean, it's at that angle and then there's a hill there and that's a bad location too, so.
To the east there's a bad hill.
You can see it okay coming from the north, and from the south, you gotta look back to the side and it gets a little treacherous coming through there, cause it's one of those perpendicular, it's coming at an angle and it's not a straight shot, so. Yeah, well, I guess in my mind, any of them that we can get done is a step in the right direction.
We're responsible for 10% of the cost.
Yeah, that's okay. I think we need to get this.
That line by Southam, that company installs them cheaper than the other railroad companies, so.
Really?
Yeah, they said about 500,000, which we're responsible for 10%, and the other line said about 750 for the 10,000, or 7,500 for 10,000 or whatever, 750,000.
The tractor,
50 grand, huh?
Yeah, so I mean, the 2 companies have a cheaper price, which doesn't make any sense.
They could pay me, and I would go out there with a couple of roadblocks and put them up every time the train's coming, just give you an alert on my phone.
the tractor doesn't go beyond Devil's Lake, does it? Does it go west any farther?
For the CP line or the Northern Plains line, I don't believe so.
So it's
Barley House.
Deadhead's here in Barley House, and then it Yeah, then it goes all the way through, what, Thief River Falls to the east.
I think.
I don't know exactly where it runs.
Yeah.
There's still trains that are on the track there, but it's not near as often as it used to be.
Barbie goes in Milwaukee, right?
Well, yeah, and I think part of that track then, they run over on, well, the CP runs all the way out to the terminal, I believe.
Right.
Because then it runs all the way out to Strata, because that's who it uses it quite a bit, I think, because Strata uses it for bringing in aggregates and things like that from out in Minnesota and places, so that's generally what's on it.
That was railroad master said three a day. Why three? I mean, somebody's stuck somewhere at three, you would think there'd be four. But whatever, I mean, that's what he said.
I guess I'd never come, I have no reason to go.
Okay,
Yeah, that's just kind of information. We did have to install a culvert in the Ramsey Nelson County line. Must be about 4 or 5 miles north of 2, where that snag and clear project's going through. There was about a 2-foot difference in the water elevation now there, so, and then they're gonna be sending even more water through there, so. But we paid for the culvert, and Nelson County paid for the installation of more of a handbook than anything. In case you get a phone call or something about that. One other, just to bring up the speed, we're gonna be installing a culvert at the 4-H grounds at the Peterson Arena. And there's actually 2 culverts there now, but we're gonna take them both out and replace them with one good one. The ends are breaking off on them. So the materials are gonna be less. Then also we're gonna put some gravel up by the building, but all the material will be less than $1,000, so just zero the speed there.
So those, the ones where they cross the road where it kind of turns the corner there?
Yep, right on that curve.
I saw that when I was out there on Sunday, I was like, yeah, that probably needs to be fixed.
And I did it, the horse trailers trying to make that curve, and if they have to meet somebody, I did it. So we're kind of pushing it, making it longer than it was before, so trying to prevent that. One other thing, I looked through all the minutes on Woods Rutten Road, when we put our spring load limits on, we raised that to 8 tons, but we never did nothing for the summer load limits to raise that to 105.5, which should take a motion of the commission. So if you guys are all in favor of that, we should probably have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Just one question, Benson's gonna do it too?
Benson's end is already at 105.5.
They are.
That's what I'm showing, like a little bit for it, so.
moved and seconded that we increase the load limits on Wood Rutten Road to 105. 105.5 or?
Correct.
Yep, 105.5. Any further discussion on that? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That's all I have, unless you have something you want to bring up. That's all I have.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Next item on the agenda. Yeah, here, oh, COVID-19 discussion. Everybody knows the emergency declaration for the state ended Friday at midnight. So, not sure exactly where that leaves us. I know we're sitting at about 8,800 vaccinations in arms in Ramsey County, which is about half the population, they say. You add in another 1,800 positive tests over the last year, we should be relatively close to that 70% herd immunity. Would that be about right? Pretty close to it?
Depends on the age range.
Sure.
In the elderly population, I think we've hit it. People my generation, I think we're at a third or less.
Right.
You know what the state is? Is the state 50% vaccinated or?
They said like 48, I think.
Oh, I thought it was 55.
Yeah,
I
We're in that range.
But yeah, somewhere in there.
I heard on news this morning, I heard on news this morning that California was the first state to get 50% today.
Oh, maybe I was wrong.
They said 48, I thought.
Well, I thought maybe we were at that 50% or 55 for those single dose, and then fully vaccinated would be about 44% of the state.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Quick question, to sort of gauge the room. I feel at this point, we've given everybody in the courthouse ample time that if they want a vaccine, they could go and get it. I think it might be time to think about removing the mask mandate maybe at the start of June for inside the courthouse. You know, that way, if people haven't, or they've been dragging their heels and they're worried about it, they still have time to go get both doses before the end of the month. But
You don't wanna wait till the end of June, I'm looking at waiting until about 9 o'clock. But that's just me. I think we've done a really well job. I think what we could do is put instead of a mask mandate on the building, maybe a mask recommendation. Instead of a full-blown, you have to wear this inside the building kind of thing. That, you know, if you want to wear a mask, or if your department, if you feel that your department needs them, then maybe that department can make up their own determination, but I don't know if we necessarily need them mandated within the building.
okay.
I think the health department would like us to wait a little bit. They want to see school finished up. They want to make sure that all the kids are in class and in person and you know, until the completion of school. I know they've been advocating that, and the Devils Lake school systems have committed to that policy within their buildings.
I think they're on the verge of removing too. I see out west, all the schools removed.
Yeah.
The only thing I like about going to June is just because it does give all the employees time to go and get vaccinated if they feel that it's important.
You're talking 1st of June.
Yeah. But, I mean, I can understand arguments to the contrary.
I don't know if they're concerned, you think it'd be done it by now.
They should have.
I mean, we've had all the availability that in the buildings and everything.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
think,
game.
no matter too much we do.
I'm game either way.
I think I know what I'm gonna do. I took it and I got sick again.
So did I, for a day each time, but it was worth it.
Yes.
I'd rather have had it and gotten sick 2 days than to get it again and be sick for 2 weeks.
I had second thoughts that night, I know that.
Well, the thing is, we don't know if we're gonna need boosters or things like that either, but I think people have had plenty of time to get it. The only question I have is the people within the building that are working with one another, if they decide to become vaccinated, that's their business. But there's still not clarity that even if you have been vaccinated, if you can carry it to somebody else. And so that's my only questions with the general public coming in and out. You know, I think a recommendation is still very prudent, obviously, but, you know, I guess what it comes down to is I'm questioning, should we still require our staff just to wear masks when they're dealing with the general public at the counters and things like that? But that's something that I'm just throwing out there for discussion. Other than that, I think, you know, everybody in the building, if they feel comfortable, then they're gonna wear it, and if they don't, or they're not gonna wear it, and if they don't, they won't.
I think for the most part in here that we do have the.
Yeah, we got plexiglass dividers and everything like that still, but I'm just throwing it out there, that's the only thing I could think that would be a problem, because I mean, they say that once you become vaccinated, you have 95% coverage essentially, and if you do get it again, that it's supposed to be like a common cold, you know, it's supposed to decrease the severity of it greatly. So, everybody everybody from January on now, basically. Well, we've been open to vaccination for everybody for what? 2 months now, probably. at
Quite a
least.
while.
I mean, I got mine at the beginning, first one at the beginning of April, I believe,
So
so.
can't grab food.
It's 50/50. It's pretty much up to the building. You know, unless it's a federal building, then
Yeah, so required.
it's required. You tell the business, all federal buildings, it's required.
One thing we got going for us too is we're outside again now, which is positive. The transmission is more or less outside, and now we get to go to parks and do fun stuff outside again, so hopefully summer will kind of pull it down now that we got the vaccines rolling and we'll be outside again. I'm fine either way.
Yeah,
I just-
I'm with Jeff, I kind of lean, end it today and go from there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, along with that, something else to think about is we have like, we take our temperature every day, we're keeping a list of people that come in and sign up. You know, just if you get to COVID, you get free sick days. Is that gonna go away too, or is that, no, we should probably think about that also.
Well, thanks for throwing a monkey wrench in there, Kevin.
Well, I believe, isn't the federal statute on all of those, or the federal guidelines on all of that, they've got the funding and all that through what, September 1 or something like that?
I think so.
So I think all of those things are reasonable to keep in place still, that
Yeah.
people don't feel as though we're gonna hang them out to dry if they get
Right.
terribly sick with it, and things like that. But we're getting, like I said, we're getting to the point now with enough people being vaccinated and everything like that, that, I mean, I'm still wearing my mask in public places, but I think it's reasonable that we're getting to that point.
We went to one on our own, you get sick now. Especially if they had that opportunity to get vaccinated.
Mhm.
But we had some people abusing it. Of course.
Sure.
You know, I think it's case by case situation.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have, obviously had someone that's going on their 4th round,
Yep.
you start to wonder.
Right.
If you need a positive test, they use it.
Right, yep, you gotta have positive.
Where the hell are they getting them at?
Well, even if the family was positive,
Buying it?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, somebody in the family could be positive,
and then they still get
then you
this,
gotta quarantine and all that fun stuff, so.
that's where the abuse is coming from.
Really touchy subject.
Boy, I'm trying to get you one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we wanna, go ahead and make a motion, or do we wanna,
I'll motion to end it today.
okay,
In the building. And put up, I do agree that it should still be up to the people they wish to, the recommendation.
yeah, okay,
So masks are recommended instead of required,
Correct.
or
Well, they'll
required
be
instead of recommended.
The mask would be lifted, but it's recommended, so if someone wants to wear the mask, they could.
Okay, always.
They could, yes.
yeah. But we're not making it mandatory for, basically taking the mandatory for our employees off, and
Unless they want to.
unless they want to, absolutely, yep. And still encourage the, you know, the proper hand hygiene and the social distancing, and, you know, if there's something that you feel uncomfortable, then by all means, put a mask on, wear a mask. I always carry one around, just in case there's a store that requires one. There's not many out there left that are requiring them, but just in case, I'll have one with me. So do we have a second to Commissioner Volk's motion?
I'll second it for discussion. I got one question for Candy. What's the feeling in the courthouse, Candy?
Be done.
Should be done.
People are ready.
And, you know, I think it kind of goes, you know, some want to be done. They get, you know, there's gonna be ones that will still I mean, if we can't social distance, I'll just put one on and,
Same feeling up on the third floor.
I think so. I think at this point it comes down to personal choice.
Yeah.
If you were concerned, you may have got the vaccine. Those who wear it are gonna wear it, those who don't are not going
Well, I think like Candy said, a lot of it comes down to too is just knowing your coworkers and who's comfortable and who's not. And if you can't social distance, just having the common courtesy as a coworker to say, I know that you're not comfortable, I'll wear my mask when I'm within your bubble, and, you know, just common courtesy, and hopefully everyone can work together, and I think it's reasonable.
And I know there's kind of we've hit that plateau of distributing vaccinations. We're no longer doing the mass vaccinations up at the Memorial Building. But I'd certainly encourage people to get one if they haven't. You know, I feel very comfortable after receiving mine. Didn't have any adverse side effects. So lucky. But they're doing pop-up clinics, vaccination clinics. They did one yesterday at the college. They're doing one today at the City Plaza. And then they're doing one at Senex East tomorrow. So you have plenty of opportunities to get vaccinated. Anybody 16 and over, is that correct? Yeah.
Yep.
16 and over, and
And I think they said that, one of them they're talking might be approved for 12 and over, maybe coming in the next week or two.
I think they're petitioning, Pfizer's petitioning
Pfizer's.
first. Yeah, so
isn't Thursdays upstairs by
I
appointment?
think Thursday's upstairs by appointment, and they continue to do so there's ample opportunity. If people want a vaccination, they can get one, and, yeah. So any further discussion on eliminating the mask requirement within the building and our employees?
Quit taking my temperature.
You can quit taking your temperature.
Thank you.
You can take this off here.
15 sheets of temperature.
Maybe. It's been out there for over a year, so.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved.
Yeah,
You should frame
I'll
it.
take it up.
You should probably take your temperature anyway, just to see what's going on.
All right, any other unfinished old business? If not, we'll move on to new business, letter of support for Lake Region Law Enforcement Center grant application with the Devils Lake Area Foundation. What they're looking for is a couple of locked medical cabinets on wheels, so they can easily dispense medication to the personnel over there and have it locked in a secured location. And I think the Devils Lake Area Foundation grant for the amount of, was it
$6,800.
$6,800.
$3,400 a cart, I think.
So the question I have, we're the only ones paying this, or this is coming out of all the
Oh, this is a grant.
This is a grant. It's just they need a sponsor.
They're giving the law enforcement money.
Yeah, on any of these CDBG grants or Devils Lake Area Foundation, they just need a sponsoring entity, and they usually come to us.
So I think what Mr. Johnson's looking for is a actual letter of support instead of going through the approved minute process to speed up the application.
I'll make a motion that we draft a letter of support for the grant for the law enforcement center.
Okay. Moved and seconded that we approve the letter of support for the grant application for the Law Enforcement Center for the Devils Lake Area Foundation. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It'll be a big help, hopefully they get approved. Review of the joint powers agreement with the Lake Region Law Enforcement Center. This is something that Rob and the LEC board have been working on for quite some time. I think Rob had sent over Bo a copy of it to have him review and make sure that the county is properly represented and protected within that.
So I did have an opportunity to review it. I also reviewed the previous agreements. Everything looks to be pretty much in order. There's just a few things that I'm gonna draw your attention to. On page 5, paragraph 4.816. Okay, defend, hold harmless, and indemnify members of the LEC board for any actions taken under the scope of their official duties. That's a pretty standard thing, but if somebody were to sue, the county could potentially be on the hook for representing the board members from our county. So just wanted to draw that to your attention. I don't think that's any reason to torpedo anything, but just so you know, that's a potential liability for the county. Medical costs, later in the agreement, inmates housed by your county, or our county's inmates, we're on the hook for their medical services. That's pretty standard as well. The only other thing that I wanted to point out was on page 11, paragraph 14.1. If for some reason we don't pay our bill on time, we're looking at an 18% interest rate. That seems kind of high to me.
So we'll leave it there.
That's fine, let's pay our bill on time, so.
I think that's the point of putting it at 18% to make sure that the bill gets paid.
Yeah.
We have a problem with one.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, those are the only things I saw. Other than that, I think the county's pretty well situated. I don't believe that Director Johnson or the members of the board would try to throw one past us, so.
I just don't stand here, you know.
I will say this agreement is far more thorough than the previous agreements, which is good.
Yeah.
I do have a few questions, I guess, sir. So were you on the committee that drafted it, or are there of you?
No.
No, okay. I just have,
Ramsey and,
Dale? Okay. I have a few questions, I guess, from my perspective from the county and going through it. You know, it talks about in the previous, or not previous, but the letter that was attached to it, that there's gonna be a side agreement then for the specific building and between the city and the county. Has that been drafted yet?
No.
Okay.
Didn't work.
It's in the works.
Not to my knowledge.
Gotcha. Okay. I just.
It's in the works.
It's in the works, okay. Because my main question in reading the whole agreement was, basically, if there's gonna be a side of agreement between the county and the city, which I'm not saying isn't reasonable, I think it's very reasonable and prudent. What's going to be considered a capital asset that's gonna be owned by the lot, and it said, I know there's a standard in there that says standard accounting practices. So what's gonna be something that's gonna be paid for by the law enforcement center, and what's something that's gonna be paid for by the county and the city? Because on things in the past where we've had facility upgrades, for instance, a physical plant upgrade, a lighting upgrade, it's been a shared cost. Under this agreement, anything that's not attached to the building is a capital asset, generally speaking. So if you take the building, turn it upside down and shake it out, anything still attached to the building would then be the hook for Ramsey and Devil's Lake, and the other counties wouldn't have any cost sharing. Is how I would understand that agreement. So that we would be on the hook then possibly for additional dollars unless the board comes to some type of an agreement every time they do a project where the other counties would cost share. Which I'm not saying is unreasonable, it's just something that came to my mind in reading the agreement and not having that second agreement in place then to know exactly how it's going to be structured or handled.
The other guidance I would give you is this does not need to be approved until May 19th.
And we have some time to ask questions, and that's why I'm asking them now.
And I do believe when I was at that meeting that Director Johnson wants to come and address our county commission and be able to answer some of those questions in more depth. So you will have an opportunity to, harangue him, if you will, so.
Well, I'm always nice to him.
Just for instance, we've been fixing potholes in the parking lot, but we refuse to pave them. We just fix them with gravel, something simple, quick. That's just maybe an example.
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be necessarily our responsibility, because it's our physical property along with the city of Devils
We
Lake, but,
wanna keep it that way.
yes, and I'm fine with keeping it that way, but I'm just saying, I think, and I trust the board, but some clarity in how that's gonna function, you know, like you've been talking about lighting upgrades to the facility.
I appreciate your input, Adam, I really do.
Yeah, we're talking, you know, like lighting upgrades. Well, then since it's gonna be attached to the building, then is it just gonna be the city and county responsibility, or the other, or we're gonna change the structure so maybe, those other counties have to give a percentage of the cost, or they pay an extra $5 a day per prisoner, so that would offset, or something like that is all I'm asking.
I think the lighting's gonna be around between 40 to 50,000, and they're gonna take it out of the profits of the law enforcement.
Yeah.
That particular project.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we should leave decisions like that up to the board somewhat too.
Yeah, and I think it's reasonable, because you're gonna be dealing with the dollars coming in and going out. I'm just bringing the question up now before we, you know, sign anything, so we have that discussion in terms of how are we gonna handle that, because, you know, stuff like huge physical plant upgrades, roofs, you know, generators, when a,
Well, the camera system.
yeah, I mean.
That was a huge project, and, you know, the city paid half, the same half that Ramsey County did, not half of the project, and then the other county.
the other counties
stepped
chipped
in
in.
and share of it.
Yes. And the other counties have always been,
Very
the
good.
ones that we have in the agreement now have always been very good to deal with, in
There
terms
was
of helping to.
There was a talk to change the makeup of the board, and I said, no, we're gonna leave the makeup of the board the way it is. You know, 2 from the city, 2 from the county, 1 from each other county. They wanted one at large, and I said, no, we're not gonna do that. So, that's how I'm.
And at large would be a difficult pull too, because how would you determine?
Amongst the other 3 counties.
Oh, so they would, one of those other 3 counties would have to make the determination, boy, that would be,
Yeah.
who's gonna get it?
And they wanted a, just an at-large person, you know, from one of the 3 counties, so. But, I said, no, let's see what it is. I didn't wanna change that makeup of the board.
It'd be tough.
Other questions about the JPA?
Nothing specific to this specific JPA, I think it looks good. The only other question I would have, and it's just a philosophical question from the commission to get us thinking about it previous to Rob coming to ask questions, is under the exit portion of it, the termination portion of the agreement, we have had members leave in the past. The way it's structured now is, I like the concept of you have to give notice by March 1st, so that we know budgeting time, that we're gonna not have that entity that following year. My question would be, do we wanna put more teeth into that? Where maybe there's some type of, you know, cause like we have really good teeth in that 18% interest it's in, you gotta get your bill paid on time, but do we wanna put some type of a exit fee on, so that entities don't jump out when all of a sudden we've got some big dollar costs or something of that nature?
I thought they had a figure in there, no?
No, it's just basically, if you give notice by March 1st, you're out free and clear. If you give notice after March 1st, then you have to pay for the next year's worth of costs. But basically, if you give between January 1 and March 1 of that year, if you give notice, you can be free and clear at the end of that year.
At the end of that
Through
year.
December
Through
of
December.
year 1.
Yes, yeah, year 1, but still, it's a free and clear, you can just cut ties and walk away.
I think you have to leave it that way.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up because I know it's something we have talked about in the past, just the thought process of how do we make sure there's teeth in the agreement to make sure that everybody's got the buy-in.
Great.
It's just something that came to my mind.
Well, and I think that's part of the teeth is having it, funded through the December of that year. That you don't decide in March that you're leaving, and then April you're no longer there.
Yeah, and I think that's reasonable.
And you stop paying. And the reason that March it was brought up was that's when Rob starts his budgeting process for the following year. So we need to know, what type of revenue can be expected from the other counties as we move forward, or other political subdivisions as we move forward through that budgeting process. And March 1st is the beginning of those talks, and so I think that was
Oh, I like the March 1st date, because that way we've got some teeth in it to the point where it says, you can't just decide in September you're not coming back next year. Because the budget's already pretty much finalized by, I mean, it's not finalized technically, but you know what I mean, so.
Well, we don't wanna find ourselves in the predicament that we find
Yes.
ourselves with and have somebody leave, you know, a quarter of the way through the budgeting or through the year and then.
Well, at the same time, I don't wanna hamstring the entities that are involved either, because if it is a decision that needs to be made for one of the other entities that they need to go someplace else for their services, I'm not saying that's unreasonable, because, you know, the court system, maybe where your prisoners are going to see the judge or something might change, you know, maybe it would make more sense to house in Grand Forks or Jamestown or something like that. We have to give those other commissions the ability to make the best decision for their counties or cities and their communities on where they're gonna house and where they're gonna get their services. So I just wanna make sure that we're being fair and making sure that we have a stability of the center while at the same time giving their county commissions the flexibility they need.
Nancy Mark worked on this.
Other than that, I think the agreement was pretty doggone good. I just think it's gonna be interesting to see how the side agreement between us and the city will be structured. And then the 911, I would assume, is gonna be very similar to this, other than just cost share on that. The formulas are gonna have to be hammered out, but other than that, I think it was pretty good.
We wanna go ahead and have Rob come in and further explain things on the 18th?
I think it would be reasonable, to ask him a few questions.
Sure.
Should we, I'm trying to think of when they thought they'd have that one between the city and the county done, but we could have them do both at the same time.
Have them do them both at the same time would be
I
great.
can't remember when they said they were gonna have it done.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's a ways out.
Yeah.
I think it is.
well, that's okay, it's, there's a happy medium like in anything where we don't wanna have the agreement so structured that we take power out of the hands of the board to be able to operate the facility in a quality way either. You know, so I don't wanna say, this is how everything's always gonna be paid for when, we gotta have, that's why we put board members on there, to make decisions, to make sure that it's structured and functioning correctly. So but I wanna make sure that we have good quality in the agreement between the city and the county too, so we can at least have an idea of what we're gonna be on the hook for going forward, basically. I think the building's in overall pretty good shape, but it's an old building, so there's always ongoing cost.
It'll always
It's getting better.
Yeah, it's getting better. We've done a lot of investment in it the past
Yeah.
5-6 years now,
Good
but there's
lot.
always ongoing cost. It's like anything.
I would comment on the intercom and camera system every month, how much
It was a good investment.
everything.
Costed money, but it was a good investment.
Your job's just stressful.
It's gonna be nice when they get the siren stuff done too, when they got the new consoles and all that's gonna be really nice for the 911 center. So it's just a huge upgrade.
So we'll have Rob come in on the 18th.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on the joint powers agreement? Well, can you think of anything?
I think it seems good to me,
Okay.
passes my sniff test.
Thank you very much for taking the time to look through it. Endorf, notice of annual meeting. North Dakota Insurance Reserve having their annual meeting. We wanna attend that, or do we wanna, go ahead and put our vote in for, county commissioner, category as far as their board representatives on the Endorf board? I think the county's category is Scott Radnick, Slope County Commissioner. He's currently on the National Association of Counties, Western Interstate Regional Board of Directors, member of Slope County Fair Board, member of Amadon Rural Fire.
I'll make a motion to vote for him.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we put our vote in for Mr. Radnick for Endorf board representative for counties. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of the homestead credits. We have 2 of them in there.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have been motion and a second to approve the homestead credits. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved site authorization, this is gaining site authorization. Looks like the Devils Lake Blue Line Club going out to Red Bay Golf Course and Webster Bar.
Move to approval.
Move to approve both, second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any visitors? Paul, you have nothing?
Great pumpkin.
Chris, anybody out in the hall that you can see? No, all
Gotta
right.
go out and work on the road today so you can see out there.
Report on portfolios, Mr. Commissioner Lightbon, you wanna start
I can
us
start
off?
us off. Nothing too crazy going on. Forward Devils Lake, we have a couple new executive board members on the board that meets. Bobby Foster from, I believe, Ramsey National Bank is on the board now, and Doug Darling, the college president, is on the board with us now. So, welcome them. Pretty common stuff going on there, just constantly doing things. Social services, we met last month after our second meeting. Our new administrative officer started, it was her first meeting, and she was getting the lay of the land, and I think she seems like she's doing well. So, in talking with Rhonda, our director, she reiterated to me that human resources has been huge for them, just because they go through so many staff, the constant churn of hiring and separations and things like that. So she would like to see somebody hired so that we have additional background on that. Other than that, I think everything's going pretty well there. The costs are all of the indirects are always a concern, but we seem to be hammering it out okay. North Central Housing Authority, our new director Tim's been on the job now for, oh gosh, 2 months almost. Things are going pretty well there. He's getting his feet wet and learning the programs, going through the projects. We are in the process of determining how we're going to handle our accounting long-term, being that our old executive director used to do all of the books and things of that nature. We have essentially kept her on as a part-time employee, because her new job she went to part-time, so she's handling the books for at least the next few months for us. And then we're gonna make a determination on how we're gonna handle it, but right now it's working just fine, so we'll kind of keep rolling with that until we can figure out what we're gonna do. But other than that, everything seems to be running pretty smoothly every place we've been doing, so that's about all I got.
Commissioner Bolt?
Lake access, docks are in, other than that, nothing. The fair board, Sarah and Kevin touched on everything there. The recorder's office didn't have anything reported. Treasurer office, 21 mobile homes, unpaid taxes, all are working with her except for one individual was a little upset. Supposed to have a sheriff involved, other than that. Like she told them she wanted willing to work with them if they got a new payments.
Commissioner Brown?
Yeah, Senior Rails extends a big thank you to all the commissioners and Andy for all the help she gives them. And law enforcement, I got help a lot out there. They're short, hard to hire people. We'll see them all now, I guess. We got a new captain, Joe, moved over from the reentry. And they hired somebody for the entry within the reentry. I don't remember the first name. Amber. I don't know. Yeah. Thank you. So things are going all right.
Commissioner Wakefield?
Thank you.
Lake Region Heritage Center has a arts festival coming up in June. That should be pretty cool, trying to involve people around downtown. I don't remember exactly what day it is, I guess I can look it up, but just be on the lookout for Facebook posts and stuff. Should be a good event, first year it's ever been done. I missed the last district health board meeting because I had food poisoning. It was a fun week last week, we'll put it that way. Let's see, Dakota Prairie, everything is pretty normal. Haven't heard anything extra special out of the sheriff's department. Guess that's about it.
Okay. Well, been working a lot with Candy on various things, and I'm sure we'll have budget discussions coming up, and we should maybe give departments an idea of where, as a commission, we want to send them in their budget processing, individual departments, whether we want to stay even, increase, all those kind of fun things. We'll start having those discussions. Political subdivisions have to have their budgets into Candy by July 1st. So reminding them of that. We have to get our budget estimate preliminary out to the people by, I think we have to have that approved by August 10th, so it can go out at the end of August, so, yeah, so, Bo's been a great help, been very busy. HR, do we want to set up an interview committee? Do we want to commission as whole to interview that individual, or those individuals that are applying for that? Do we want to have a couple commissioners and Candy be a part of it?
Well, we have the commission as a whole, the interview has to be open to the public, right?
Correct. My recommendation would be one or two of us along with Candy, maybe Bo, sit in on those interviews and go through that process. I think the deadline is tomorrow at 4.
Do we have
Applicants?
We do have applicants, so, which is good. I know one of the things that came up in discussions was maybe a different location for that office, something that would have more privacy, to give for employees so they're, you know, not being ID'd going in and talking to the principal's office kind of thing. The other thing is that when you're surrounded by other offices, these old walls don't provide a whole lot of sound barrier. Even with the sound barrier cushions that we had placed on Crystal's office, it's still very easily heard with behind the other side of the wall. So that was one of the recommendations where we look at within the building. I'm not sure if there's any open available spaces, but that was something that we may have to do a juggling act on and see if we can work something out. But looking forward to having somebody in place. They're certainly very much needed, and I know Crystal had given some recommendations and some thoughts on how to make this a better place to work. And so hopefully we can try to carry those messages forward to the new HR person. That person will have their own ideas on how we can implement some of those things. But one of the things, and I certainly agree with, would be to allow our employees an opportunity to volunteer within the community without having to take time off from work. Having a, you know, some apparel expense allowed, saying, Ramsey County, be proud of who you work for, and have that individual out helping out at a volunteer type of event, whether it be a Kiwanis pancake supper or a Rotary spaghetti feed or Devil's Run,
Relay for life,
or
setting up-
Relay for
setting up
Life,
the luminaries and
setting
I
up
like this idea.
luminaries. You know, being able to have our employees out in public, interacting with the public, without having fear of having to take vacation time in order to do so. And I think that would be something that we can work with HR going forward and coming up with a policy to allow employees to do that.
Set like a maximum allotted hours or something, you
Yep.
get a couple free days a year or something like that, where you can donate your time or something.
Yeah,
I know there's other entities that do that, KLJ has a program, or had something like that at one point in time, I remember.
We've got some emergency
Yeah,
time, like for sandbagging or whatever.
Yeah.
3 days, 24 hours a year, but nothing like that. You're talking about the shirt or the apparel, I guess for Rotary, we pay $20 per shirt, and then we can go to different vendors around town and they'll probably fix up the rest.
yeah.
Or no, we pay 20, then you pick up the rest, so like a shirt like this would be, you only pay $20 for it.
Yeah.
what's the apparel budget for the highway department stuff?
It's $100 limit, and we pay 50%. I mean, so you can get $200 worth of.
For the stuff, we'll pay $100. Okay.
Yeah.
Just go each employee
Yeah,
and make a listing of it.
yeah. I think it'd be a good idea to get in
Get some
an apparel.
nice
done.
polos and polos and stuff like that. Yeah, as long as it's-
Suits have a logo,
Huh?
besides
Suit.
the picture of the
Suit,
floor.
yeah, there you go. Get your Ramsey County logo on your blazer.
Yeah,
All over pattern.
Because that was something we looked at during the comprehensive plan, was I took a picture of above that logo on the floor of the entry of the courthouse. So it's nice to recreate that somehow.
yeah,
They'll need, if they're gonna put it on a shirt, they'll need a digital,
visual.
or maybe, I guess they create those two places, make
Yeah.
shirts too.
I just-
Charge you for it, but.
I just like the idea of banking a few hours so that
Yeah.
our employees can give some time to the community and increases visibility and which is good.
Yeah,
It's good when you volunteer, so.
yeah,
Well, the discussion that we had was that you see so many people like asking for help for bond, that. Just one way of giving back, I mean.
yeah. Well, and I know
People it's
I've
good.
had employees come to me to sign off on vacation requests for volunteer activities, and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, you go ahead and take that time off. We won't include it against your vacation, so. But I think volunteering for your community is a good thing, and being proud of where you work and who you're employed with, I think is also a big plus and a big positive as well. I think there's a lot of great employment opportunities that we have in Ramsey County, and I think people should be excited about where they work and be able to share that with the community. So,
In a sort of similar vein, and forgive me if this has come up before and I've forgotten, but I know Commissioner Lightfon was talking about it. I think the commission should host a day for all the employees, unless we've talked about that already.
I think we just brought it up after a meeting, just saying it would be something.
But I mean, I think it would be good if we could actually put a little bit of a plan together, something like maybe we could give all the employees like a half day and meet everybody out at Roosevelt Park and have burgers and brats and
yeah.
maybe sometime near the end of July would work pretty well.
Well, you know, those appreciation breakfasts that we started before the whole COVID thing, they went over really well. They were very much appreciated, and you know, the commission contributed to those, and then we went down and helped serve, and you know, I think employees like that, and a barbecue picnic type of thing would be a great event. Show our employees how much we really appreciate all the above and beyond that they do for us, I think is a good thing. So, like Commissioner Gertz mentioned at the Law Enforcement Center board meeting, our employees are our most important asset. And
Friday, July 16th.
You got a date already.
All right.
I like
Why
it.
not? I mean, otherwise we'll just keep saying we should do this and it'll be next
Otherwise,
year.
we just keep pushing the can down the road, right?
Yeah, like,
So, I like it.
The 30th would work. I'm just out there, just looking at my schedule right now. We have state baseball, so that.
So summers, I'm wondering if a weeknight wouldn't be better, you catch more people in town. Sometimes people on the weekend, they're, off to their lake cabins or the lake homes and
I was
things like
thinking
that.
to be giving people half a Friday off.
Oh, yeah, Friday off.
You make it a half day and do lunch barbecue.
There you go.
And people wanna hang out, maybe have a couple things for them to do until 2 or 3, and then after that.
Well,
it's
too, I mean, if you could combo it with families or something like that, and maybe do it at Ruger or something, we could bring kids free swimming or something like that.
Yeah.
Do something
Sure,
for
we
the
can do
families.
it at Ruger too, but yeah, I think it'd be a great idea.
23rd or the 30th would work, if you wanna do it on Friday.
I think Friday would be nice. and
If
people-
we're gonna do it at Ruger, we'll get a horseshoe tournament or something.
Well, whichever. We can let Candy decide that. She's.
We'll pass that on to the new HR.
Okay,
Right.
23 work for everybody else?
23rd,
Yeah.
Maybe.
works for me. The early always starts, but
We got
I'll be there.
I'll make a motion that the county commissioners, each individually, whoever wants to contribute, will host an employee appreciation barbecue and lunch on Friday, the 23rd, location to be determined, and that all employees be given a half day that day, unless they're essential or have some reason to need to be.
This is, hey, that's fine, we'll make it work.
Trying to give you time off.
Right. We appreciate it.
I'll second the motion.
But I do have one thing. When is the state fair? Is that over that week?
Good question.
What day did we take?
23rd.
I think that's the start of it, yeah. So,
So, does that, I mean, again,
I'm just saying,
they would either be at work,
I got you.
right, they'd either be at work or they,
Well,
whatever, so it's like, I don't
So then it would
understand
give them
how.
half month.
in the summer months, we're never gonna be able to pick a perfect day. Because there's always, somebody's going to the lake, somebody's going to the state fair,
That's
somebody's
actually
going to a
right.
concert.
That'd actually probably work good if we do our
Yeah,
cookout thing, and if they wanna take it off, we get for it.
and at the end of the day, if we only get half of the staff, well, that's fine. We're offering the opportunity to come hang out and have free meal and visit and, yeah.
I mean, I just,
Did we decide on HR or what are we doing there? One thing I wanted to add is at our last social service meeting, I brought up the fact that Crystal had resigned and she was taking a job elsewhere. And I brought up to the board that I expect social service to take part of the salary. And I think that's only fair. I don't think we have changed our workforce that much that we need a full-time HR person. So with social service involved in 3 other counties, yes, we do need a full-time social service.
let's complete this employee appreciation motion that we have on the table first, and then we'll, yeah, we need to vote on it. Any further discussion on the employee appreciation, July 23rd? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We'll bring more information back at our May 18th meeting, I think.
Rhonda indicated that day, and I talked to her afterwards later, but she said she was talking to the state about paying that share, but she didn't have a lot of hope, I guess.
It's the question of is it a direct cost or an indirect cost, and where is it listed in the formula payment and all that kind of stuff, so. I think it's something we can hammer out with the board though as a whole, that I think it's only reasonable that they don't necessarily have to pick up half the salary or something like that, but they gotta chip in just because it's adding so much workload. That I think it's only reasonable, and but it's something on the table there, yeah. I think it's
So
something
you
on
can
the
tell
board.
the applicant that, there might be trips to Rolla or,
Yeah, there'll be some travel, well, yeah, there's travel involved already, so.
I think
or Totten.
that's, I've been making a list of,
I surely don't feel that Ramsey has to pick up the whole tab on that HR.
There should be some type of assurance.
Yeah,
And I think Rhonda is amenable to that, I think it's just a matter of figuring out how the state's gonna,
Yep.
how it's, what it's considered indirect, direct, and then how we're gonna work with the other counties on how they're gonna pay for it.
She indicated that in our conversation later that she'd be all right with that.
on the chart, yeah. And let's, add that on how we're gonna pay for that, or whether or not social services will be.
They'll be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is, you know, a third, 2/3 of that job is in that department. Do we wanna, set up a committee, or do we all wanna be a part of that?
I think a committee would make the most sense. I think it can be very daunting for somebody, especially if they're thinking about coming from another job.
Yeah.
This is me speaking from experience. I've applied for jobs where it had to be open record. And it's really hard if you're thinking about looking at a new job and you don't necessarily want your current coworkers or boss or whoever to know, and there it all is in public record.
Right.
My question would be for the state's attorney, in that, I'm trying to remember, but there's a certain portion of of the open meetings law that essentially says if you create a committee of 2 commissioners out of 5, that by creating that committee, then you're creating a committee of the whole essentially.
Right.
And then you can't circumvent the open meeting law, is essentially what, so I'm questioning if we do a committee approach versus something like, since the chair is the oversight, having the chair and the auditor and maybe the state's attorney together doing the initial look at it, and then saying, okay, if you're going to be a finalist, we would like to have a second set of, you know, and then, because you could have 3 finalists, you can keep everything under the open records law until you get to those 3 finalists, and then we could have a final round at the commission as a whole or something.
Let's just do 2.
Yeah, whatever we can do legally.
I'll look at it.
Yeah.
I'll send you an opinion.
Okay.
In an email.
I just remember something about reading something about that at some point.
One of the people I think we should have on there, Rob, represents social services.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable too.
Well, we could do it, the chairman or vice chairman, Candy, Bo, and Rhonda.
Yeah,
I think that's a form of nomination.
I think we should have 2 commissioners.
yeah, if we can.
If we can.
I'll make, is it okay if I'll make a motion that in order to hire the HR supervisor, that we set up a committee with the auditor, state's attorney, social services director, as well as 2 commissioners if it is legal to use 2 commissioners. The vice chair and the chair would make the most sense to me.
If it's legal or not legal, let's just use 2.
Yeah, well, if it.
Whoa.
Hey, that's state's attorney right there.
If they have to have oversight.
And well, I get what you're saying. You're saying that
Right, it doesn't matter.
allow it to be open record.
I wouldn't want to sit under myself and hire this person and it don't work, and then I gotta look at you other 4. No thanks. But if there's 2 of you, then you make the decision
Well-
together and. go
Well,
from
my
there.
whole point is.
Not that I want to be on there. I'll withdraw myself.
Yeah, well, yeah, that'll be my motion. I'll let somebody second it, and then we'll discuss.
Second.
Basically, all I'm saying is that if by including 2 commissioners, we automatically make it an open meeting requirement, then at that point, why don't we only have 1, ferret it down to the finalists, and then have the meeting?
Right.
Because essentially, I'm just trying to protect the people that are applying if they're coming from another job and they don't want that out until they become a finalist. You know, it's
Yeah, you
basically.
said there was 3 apps so far?
Okay. So we're under that limit right now anyway, but I just wanna make sure that we don't put anybody in front of the camera that isn't prepared to get in front of the camera. As an open meeting.
Well, we could have an open meeting, it doesn't have to be on camera.
Right.
You know.
Right.
No, I realize that,
Yeah,
but,
Make that very plain to the candidates.
Yeah.
that can't-
but it's still something where somebody can, you know, walk in, walk
Well, so
out.
somebody can walk in, sit in and view the meeting. I think
It
that,
actually did,
It did, the camera was on?
yeah, because, certain people were watching that, it got back to my current employment really fast.
Well, and that'll happen with the camera on or off. If it's an open
Right.
meeting, somebody's gonna know you came in at that point because there's enough people in the building that.
well,
I know
not only that, but it'd be,
You get treated
that person's
better than
name would be
No, I got
listed
treated
on the
worse.
agenda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where I just wanna make sure, you know, people apply,
Yeah,
and then maybe after they learn, go through an initial process, learn maybe this isn't gonna be for me.
Right.
We wanna make sure that those people aren't listed, so they're not outed to an employer or something if they were just putting out a feeler and they were just wanted to learn more about the job type of situation. I just wanna make sure we protect people.
I know that from personal experience. I applied to be the director of Forward Devils Lake, and I got called that I was a finalist, and they said they had to publish my name, and I said, if you do that and I don't know I get the job, I promise you Edward Jones will fire me.
Yeah.
Like that. Because as soon as a financial advisor, because they're afraid you're gonna sell the book
sure.
of business. And I said, if it gets out and I don't get the job, I will lose my current job 100% of the time. And so I said, pull my name. You know, I don't wanna be a finalist anymore, if you have to publish it.
Been on that same road.
Yeah, so it's just a happy medium between,
Yeah.
It's not a good feeling.
No.
So,
And I think that's why finalists are made public, right? So you can have a preliminary determination of who's good and who's not, right? That's kind of built in
Yeah.
to the fabric. So if we make that first meeting an open meeting, basically you're traumatizing twice.
yeah, and that's what I'm essentially saying, is
Right.
let's make sure we make the preliminary portion of it so it doesn't have to be open, so we can go through those candidates, sift through them, make sure that the candidates that really wanna look at this job are the ones that come to the open meeting portion.
So will you amend your motion to say that if it has to be an open meeting under the stipulations you've made, that the vice chair will no longer be a part of it?
Yes.
Okay. You still good with seconding that? Great.
Just put another commissioner on. You'll see.
Well,
You'll represent social service.
well, no, but, just so we make sure that it's closed previous to having to have the final discussion, basically.
Okay.
Let me look into
Yes. We've got some time to figure it out.
By the
Well-
end of the workday today.
yeah.
I can do that. I'll let you take my township.
Any, further discussion on the motion?
We're ready to complicated, I tell you what.
If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. One last thing I have is outlet advisory meeting will be virtual next Wednesday, the 12th, from 2 to 4 p.m. Whether or not we want to have a larger venue for people to be able to witness or be a part of that meeting, I'm not sure. I would certainly offer up the courthouse if we'd like to do that. Myself and Bill Mertens are the representatives for Ramsey County. Joel Anderson is Towner County, Mike Steffen is Benson County. I want to say Ben Burnson is Nelson County. And then we have Senator Dave Elke as our legislative representative from this part of the region. And then there's another 8 or so down the southern part of the tributaries that are part of that advisory committee. And I think the key word there is advisory. They give a recommendation on how they think the pump should be operated for the season. And then the governor and state water commission will make that decision based on the recommendation of that committee. I know we're a little outnumbered because there is a Minnesota and a Manitoba representative on there, so, but, and they're always against any Devils Lake water, so. But that's Wednesday, May 12th, 2 to 4 p.m. Virtual, go to meetings.com or whatever.
That's what they say, water commission meeting,
Yeah.
they're deciding that day.
Yeah, that's the outlet advisory committee meeting, is the Wednesday, May 12th. And it's not gonna be an in-person meeting, it's gonna be virtual, unfortunately. I would rather have an in-person meeting, and that's why I would offer up if anybody wanted to be a part of it, we could maybe do it from here or our basement meeting room or something like that, but
You're gonna be able to have input back to them?
I would think so. Certainly as a committee member, I'll be able to have input back to them. Whether or not they've made any decisions on allowing it open to the public for public comment, I'm not sure. To me, I guess if I was running that meeting, I would run it, and I'm gonna do it virtual. I would run it similar to how the legislative committees operated, and have those that are gonna testify, have their testimony submitted an hour before the meeting, have them on one platform, so they're able to view and speak and share their information with the committee members, and then have another platform for just those that wanna view the meeting. And
Who's the chairman of that?
State water, well, actually the governor, or his or his designee. Usually it's a state, engineer. It'd be John Pikowski, who's the interim state engineer.
Well, I think we should make it, aware to the public and our own community,
I think it's been pretty well publicized out there.
that
I think
that you're
people are-
gonna have a meeting in the courthouse.
If we'd have a meeting here and host it, where people could participate. And I haven't seen anything, any guidelines from the Water Commission if how they're taking public comment, or if the public's just gonna be able to view, or if they should submit written comment. But that's something that needs to be clarified. And
Well, I can, there's people that come to my mind that are concerned about the lake. A lot of them still have land underwater.
Yeah. Well,
I know one lady that I know she testified,
Yeah,
and
and she's well aware of the meeting.
And, they say they're not gonna run pumps, and
Well, they haven't said that yet, but.
I had it all pretty good.
So,
Motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.